So, welcome to LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. Thanks for joining me. I've got 20 or so clips picked out for what should be a good show tonight. As always, this is my weekly broadcast of the best clips from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the corporate media here in the United States, along with my commentary between the clips. This week, in addition to the Sunday news shows from the regular Big Five outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, I'll also be using some quasi-news clips from HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, including clips of Richard Dawkins and Michael Moore I'll play at the end, and I'll also have some clips from last night's Saturday Night Live on NBC. Put this down just oops. Now, the big topic for the last few weeks has been the debt ceiling and the government shutdown, but that's been put off for a few months at least, and so this week's big topic was the problematic rollout of the Obamacare website, with some coverage of the NSA spying on Europe and a few other topics. But I wanted to start out tonight with a clip from last night's Saturday Night Live Weekend Update with Seth Meyers, who was reporting the response to the Obamacare website problems like this.
House Republicans this week opened hearings into the failure of the healthcare.gov website. So don't worry about that tech issue, America. A bunch of our oldest men are on the case.
So yeah, that was last night's Saturday Night Live. And speaking of those old white male Republicans, Bill Maher over on HBO's Real Time last Friday made an observation about how Republicans at the state level have some responsibility for the problems with the Obamacare website. And you can see Bill Maher's observation about that over in this clip.
The other thing is that the Republicans love to blame Obama for problems that they caused. You know, well, the deficit is too high. Yes, because George Bush left a tire fire for an economy. We're having a slow recovery with the economy. Yes, because you wouldn't pass any of his programs. One of the main reasons why the website is glitchy is because states were all supposed to join in the effort. And in the states where they have their own state website, like Red Kentucky with a Democratic governor, it works fine. Pretty well, which is so hypocritical because what do Republicans always say? Send it back to the states. Got to work on the local level. The federal government is evil. Just do everything on the state level. If they'd only done that, the fucking thing would work better.
Much better. You're right. You're right.
And yeah, I think that's an important point, especially when you look at some of the states that have implemented Obamacare, like my state of California and also Kentucky. I think that's even a better example because Kentucky is a home of course, one of the leaders of the Republican Tea Party faction, Senator Rand Paul, and then the actual leader of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate, Mitch McConnell. They're both from Kentucky, but Kentucky also has a Democratic governor who helped Kentucky set up its own Obamacare website, and it's actually working pretty well. As you can see, here's a Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear pointing that out on NBC's Meet the Press over in this clip.
At 12:01 a.m. on October 1, when our exchange opened up to enrollment, Kentuckians started swarming all over our exchange, all over our toll-free lines, and in about 4 weeks, we've had over 300,000 Kentuckians trying to find out and finding out about affordable health care. We've signed up over 26,000 people so far.
Mostly Medicaid, though. They're mostly getting Medicaid, so it's not the young and healthy people getting the insurance plans that are really necessary to make this system work.
Of the 26,000, 21,000 are in Medicaid, 5,000 are in qualified health plans, but we've got another 10,000 going on to the plans that are in the process of choosing. You know, it's a lot quicker to get somebody enrolled in Medicaid once you find out they're eligible. When you go to the plans, they've got to look at all the details and pick the plans that they want. You know, this is working in Kentucky. We had and have some of the worst health statistics in the country. And it's been that way for generations. The only way we're going to get ourselves out of the ditch is some transformational tool. That's what the Affordable Care Act is going to do for us.
So yeah, there's Governor Steve Beshear from Kentucky giving some of the positive parts about Obamacare that don't have to do with the federal website, state websites and state Medicaid expansion, which I'll talk about a little bit later. have been really successful in increasing coverage for people who didn't have coverage before. But I don't want to make it sound like it's all like a rosy scenario about the Obamacare rollout. I want to play the next 3 clips here. First, actually, from a couple Democrats who are admitting that there are problems with, it's pretty obvious that there are problems with the Obamacare website rollout, at least. And first, I want to show a couple of the Democratic senators in a couple of the Democrats in the Senate who are trying to delay the penalty for not enrolling in Obamacare because people aren't having the chance to enroll with the problems with the website. The first one is Democratic Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire, who talked about the bill she's trying to get in through the Senate in this clip.
Website. The rollout has been a disaster, and so what I'm proposing is that we extend the period in which people can enroll so we can make sure we get as many people who want health insurance able to enroll and be able to be covered.
And as I understand it, 10 Democrats have signed on to your proposal. But I guess what I would say is, and I talked to the White House yesterday about this, and they would not criticize you, but they said it's really not going to be necessary to extend that deadline. I guess I'd ask you, do you have faith in them? Do you believe that that can actually happen?
Well, I hope that's accurate, because my goal is to fix the Affordable Care Act to make sure people can get that access to health care. Unlike a lot of the proposals that we've seen from people whose goal is to repeal it to make sure it doesn't work, I want it to work. And that's why I think extending the enrollment period, we're already a month in to the marketplaces and the website, and people are not able to enroll.
All right, so
Yeah, so there's Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire talking about this Democratic plan to, or it's actually a bipartisan plan that includes some Democrats to, obviously if it's bipartisan, includes Democrats, that would delay the penalty for not enrolling in Obamacare since people are having problems enrolling. And after the clip I showed there, Bob Schieffer from Face the Nation went on to ask her, so even if, because the Obama administration is saying they're going to get the website fixed by the end of November, and so Bob Schieffer asked her, even if that is true and they get the website fixed by the end of November, are you still going to go ahead with your plan to delay the penalty? And she basically said yes. And then also, I think this is on This Week with George Stephanopoulos, another centrist Democrat, Joe Manchin from West Virginia. He basically talked about the centrist Democratic plan in or the bipartisan Democratic plan in the Senate over in this clip.
George, I've been working in a bipartisan manner with Senator Johnny Isakson and trying to put a coalition together of bipartisan senators, which basically says the penalty, the fine of $95 will not be into effect until January 2015. At that time, the fine will be $325. It'll still induce people to get involved, but it'll also give us a time to transition in. And I think we need that transition period to work out the things, and we identified a lot of problems. There's a lot of glitches. When I was
So yeah, there's Joe Manchin talking about how they're going to delay the penalty for not having health insurance a year, but they're not going to, the deal is that if you don't have health insurance by, I think it's March 31st is the current date, then you have to pay a $95 fine on your income tax return. And then it's in the second year, it's, $395, something like that. And Joe Manchin just said. And so even though they're going to delay they're basically going to get rid of the $95 fine for the first year, but they're still going to go to the almost $400 fine for the second year. So that's kind of a delay, but it still has the increased fine for the second year coming at the same time. So it doesn't delay that part. Now, of course, the Democrats like Jeanne Shaheen and Joe Manchin there, the Democratic senators, were not the only people who were criticizing the rollout for Obamacare. Of course, Republicans were criticizing the Obamacare rollout as well. I mean, they've been criticizing it pretty strongly for quite a while. And I'm going to show a couple of them. First, I want to show John Barasso over on the same show this week with George Stephanopoulos, who was also criticizing the rollout of Obamacare and especially Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius over in this clip.
Obama health care law, and you talk about Secretary Sebelius and her comments. She's already, as of Saturday Night Live last night, the laughingstock of America. So she's lost considerable credibility, and even when she says...
So yeah, there you can see Republicans are actually using Saturday Night Live as their ammunition to attack Obamacare. And I guess they don't really buy into Saturday Night Live satire as making someone a laughingstock when they're attacking Republicans or ridiculing Republicans, which they often do. But I guess if they ridicule Kathleen Sebelius, that means she's a laughingstock and has to go or has lost credibility. And what he's talking about, I'm going to show you the on Saturday Night Live last night. The intro was a parody of Kathleen Sebelius talking about the problems with the Obamacare website rollout, and one of my favorite parts of it was where she talked about the frequently asked questions on the Obamacare website, and this is her name. I'm sorry, Kate McKinnon. That's the name of the Saturday Night Live cast member who is doing a impersonation of Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius over in this clip.
Still need guidance? Consult healthcare.gov's frequently asked questions for topics like, what the hell? How have I been on the same page for 3 hours? Does Obamacare cover mental health issues caused by using this website? And our most frequently asked question, who the government?
Who the government? I guess that's kind of like the Tea Party libertarian question that is in the kind of question you might get on that website. But I guess that when Saturday Night Live ridicules Democrats, that means that somehow they become a laughingstock in Republican eyes, from like Senator John Barasso. But that doesn't seem to apply when Saturday Night Live does all of its parodies of Republicans. That doesn't make them laughingstocks. I've never heard them use Saturday Night Live as a reason that someone should resign or has problems. But because I use the Saturday Night Live clips, I thought I would show that clip as well as the one from John Barasso, showing why it is that Saturday Night Live is relevant to use in my LiberalViewer Sunday Live clip roundup, because apparently it has real political implications, at least according to Republican Senator John Barasso, when it applies to a Democratic Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. But if you excuse me real quickly here while I load up the next 3 clips. I also wanted to show after showing that sort of not really fair use of Saturday Night Live by a Republican senator, I also want to show my Fox News bias clip of the night, which is when Chris Wallace was talking about the termination of some health insurance policies over Obamacare, or because of Obamacare. And what Chris Wallace over on Fox News Sunday was trying to say, that all these policies are getting canceled because of Obamacare. But if you actually look into it, you'll see policies that don't have enough coverage, that don't, Obamacare sets some minimum standards for what health insurance has to cover. They can't have like lifetime caps, and they can't ban people with pre-existing conditions, and they have to have coverage for preventative care that includes birth control and all sorts of, I think there are 8 different categories of coverage that they have to have. And so this is a bad thing over on Fox News. And Chris Wallace, the host of Fox News Sunday, was talking about how the coverage mandate is causing cancellations of policies, and means that when President Obama said, if you like your health care, you can keep it, that wasn't true. And anyway, I'll show you the clip from Fox News Sunday right here.
Because a lot of people may not understand, there's not only an individual mandate, there's not only an employer mandate, there's also a coverage mandate that according to Obamacare, each insurance policy that's sold has to meet certain standards for the number of benefits, and that's creating a problem. Let's put it on the screen. Congressman Beshear, in your state of California, Kaiser Permanente is canceling the policies of 160,000 people. That's half of its individual business. Florida Blue is terminating 300,000 policies, 80% of its individual business.
So yeah, they're talking about all these policies that are being canceled under because of Obamacare's coverage mandate, but the problem is it's not really a cancellation. What they're saying is that policies that don't meet the minimum standards of Obamacare are being canceled, but that doesn't mean those people aren't being offered other plans. And sometimes because Obamacare has these subsidies for people of lower income, a lot of times people are getting more coverage for a lower price, although there are some people who have to pay a higher price for higher coverage. So that's if they, if they're high income people who don't get subsidies may actually have to pay a higher price. But then, we're talking about rich people having to pay more money for better health insurance. That's not a huge calamity. And to prove my point, I want to, Chris Wallace there on Fox News Sunday was talking about Florida Blue canceling 300,000 policies as an effect of Obamacare, but Patrick Geraghty from Florida Blue was over on Meet the Press, and he explained what's really happening over in this clip.
Well, David, we're not cutting people. We're actually transitioning people. What we've been doing is informing folks that their plan doesn't meet the test of the essential health benefits. Therefore, they have a choice of many options that we make available through the exchange. And in fact, with subsidy, many people will be getting better plans at a lesser cost. So this really is a transition. And in fact, the 300,000 figure is the entire year. So it's really 40,000 people for January 1, and we're walking them through that transition.
So yeah, you can see that that's the actual facts about what's going on in Florida Blue. But over on Fox News, that just got reported as 300,000 people are losing their health care coverage, when actually what's happening is it's 40,000 people on January 1st, and they're getting better coverage, often for a lower price. So I just wanted to make sure everyone saw that. But of course, not only did Chris Wallace ask that question based on a false premise to the Democratic congressman from California, Beshear, who we had on, but he also allowed the Republican congresswoman, Marsha Blackburn, she's from somewhere in the South, I think Tennessee, and I think I've said in the past, I think Marsha Blackburn's going to be like the new Michelle Bachmann, now that Michelle Bachmann, kind of the crazy Tea Party Republican congresswoman from Minnesota, is retiring. Marsha Blackburn's going to be the new kind of crazy Republican Tea Party person. She's the only female Republican in the leadership in the House of Representatives. Anyway, she built on the whole false premise of the Chris Wallace's question about people canceling getting their policies canceled because of Obamacare. Back over on Fox News Sunday in this clip.
That's what they'd like to tout. What you're talking about specifically with policies being terminated, we hear these stories every single day from small business owners and individuals, that individual marketplaces being so adversely impacted. These individuals, you're exactly right, come January 1, they have no access to health insurance. What we are seeking to do is to make certain that if they do have something, that they are able to keep it. What the president said is turning out to be a falsehood, because they are not able to keep that, and they are desperate to figure out what they're going to do for coverage. And by the way, it is costing them more than they are currently paying, because they have a policy that meets their needs. And now they're saying you can no longer have it.
So yeah, there you can see the Republicans saying that people are going to have to pay more, and the problem is that the they have a policy that meets their needs, and now they're going to have to pay more. But really what's happening is that they're getting rid of policies that are substandard, that have all these extra requirements, or that can have like a lifetime cap so that they can stop paying if you have some really expensive insurance need, or they don't give preventative care coverage or other types of important coverage. So that's really what's happening. But of course, Marsha Blackburn gets to play off of the false information from Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace. And so, of course, Fox News viewers are totally misled on what's really going on. Now, I also said I want to talk about the other part of Obamacare, which is Medicaid expansion. And I want to give you some background facts on that before I talk about it. Basically, under Obamacare, one of the ways that Obamacare increases coverage, and not only sets up these healthcare exchanges that, that's what the website problems are with, but it also tells states that they need to increase eligibility for Medicaid. Did I say Medicare before? I meant Medicaid. And Medicaid is basically health insurance that poor people qualify for, and Obamacare sort of raises what the maximum amount of income you can make before where you stop qualifying for Medicaid. I think it's like 20% higher, something like that, that they raise the maximum income by about 20%. So more people qualify for Medicaid, and that increases coverage. And the way that Obamacare did it originally, before it went to the Supreme Court, was that it required the states to increase their eligibility for Medicaid to higher, about 20% higher income levels. And then for the first few years, the federal government paid 100% of the costs of the increased eligibility. And then after that, the federal government's supposed to pay 90% of the cost until Congress changes the law, or forever, if Congress never changes the law. So it's actually a pretty good deal for the states. What it does is it allows them, for the first few years, it's basically free money to increase this eligibility, and then after that, 90% is still a lot of the money. First I want to show you over on Fox News Sunday, they had Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal on, and after I just showed that Fox News bias clip about not really giving accurate information about cancellation of policies in Florida, I want to show one place where Chris Wallace actually asked Bobby Jindal a somewhat tough question about his refusal to take basically this free money from the federal government to increase coverage for poor people in Louisiana. Would have increased Medicaid eligibility. And so I want to show you that question and answer from Chris Wallace about Medicaid expansion in Louisiana, with Bobby Jindal's answer in this clip.
He wrote, without the expansion, 242,150 poor Louisiana residents won't have access to the insurance offering the Affordable Care Act was designed to provide. And they note that other Republican governors who oppose Obamacare, like you do, like Kasich of Ohio and Snyder of Michigan, are taking the Medicaid money to help folks in their state.
Well, again, if we did Medicaid expansion in Louisiana, for every uninsured person covered, more than one person would be taken out of private insurance. Secondly, it would mean 41% of our population, Chris, would be in Medicaid. I think you need more people pulling the cart than in the cart. Third, it would cost my taxpayers up to $1.7 billion over 10 years. This isn't free money. The Oregon study has also shown that just expanding Medicaid doesn't necessarily improve healthcare outcomes. After 2 years, this is a credible study, nonpartisan study, showed there was no improvement in physical healthcare outcomes after 2 years of Medicaid expansion. Just giving somebody a Medicaid card is not giving them healthcare access.
Well, I guess just giving someone a Medicaid card isn't giving them healthcare access, but that study he cited, he's basically saying that because a study showed that if you give someone healthcare access for 2 years and their health outcomes don't improve, that means that it wasn't effective. But at least from my point of view, I think 2 years is kind of a short period of time to figure out whether increased healthcare access through Medicaid actually helps people, because I mean that's basically ridiculous. But if you want to see why it is that Republican Governor Bobby Jindal from Louisiana there was why he rejected what basically he said it wasn't free money, but for the first few years it is free money, and after that it's like 90% free money. But he rejected it, and if you want to see why, over on Meet the Press, David Gregory was asking Ohio Governor John Kasich, who Chris Wallace there referred to as one of the Republican governors who took the money, and you can see John Kasich over on Meet the Press trying to justify why he took Obamacare money, and some people say he might be running for president, so of course he's going to have a problem explaining to primary voters as to why he took Obamacare money, even though it helps all these poor people in his state. And I want to show you his answer to why he took the Obamacare money, and it has one of the most dishonest talking points I've seen from a Republican in a long time, as I will explain after you watch the clip here.
Well, first of all, David, as you can tell, I've articulated my opposition to Obamacare, but Chief Justice Roberts gave every state an opportunity to try to get federal dollars to improve Medicaid. Now, we have many mentally ill people in this country who are being treated terribly. We have people who are drug addicted, and drug addiction is in every demographic, every race, every income level. And we also have many veterans who aren't covered. So Ohio gets a good deal. We get $14 billion of Ohio money back to Ohio to deal with some of the most serious problems. And I'm not going to ignore the mentally ill, and I'm not going to ignore the drug addicted or veterans or very working poor people on my watch. But that doesn't mean I embrace Obamacare, because I think it's not right.
So yeah, this Obamacare money isn't right, even though he's taking it. And then the most dishonest talking point I can remember in kind of the middle there, or near the beginning, he said that Chief Justice John Roberts gave states the opportunity to take this Medicaid expansion money, but that's not true. What happened in the Supreme Court, Obamacare required all states to take the Medicaid expansion money, and that was actually the part that was struck down by the Supreme Court, where John Roberts and a majority of the Supreme Court said that states didn't have to take the money if they didn't want to. It was up to each state. So I guess they gave them the option, but didn't give them the opportunity. It's Obamacare that gave them the opportunity. John Roberts said it was optional. They didn't have to do it. So yeah, that was kind of dishonest, I thought. And I also want to show one more clip from Governor John Kasich. Did I call him a senator before? I hope I didn't. But he used to be a senator, a congressman, but now he's governor of Ohio. And I want to show one more clip. It's kind of my transition to the clips about the NSA spying I'm going to show in a minute, where he actually said something else I thought was a little disingenuous, where he blamed Obamacare and NSA spying for loss of confidence in the government. And I'll show you that clip here.
That's like three things. The government almost shut down. They're tapping somebody's phone, and now this thing. This is creating an issue of confidence in the minds of the American people, and doubt with people around the world, which is really serious. Now, here's what I think, Dave.
So yeah, it's Obamacare and NSA spying that's created a loss of confidence in the United States around the world. And from a Republican, I find that kind of disingenuous, because what about the war to find weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist? Did that maybe cause a little bit of the loss of confidence in the United States around the world? But somehow I don't think I'll be hearing that from John Kasich anytime soon. But regarding the NSA spying, there's basically Edward Snowden leaks created some more controversy with the news stories this last week that the NSA has been spying on European citizens and a whole bunch of European leaders. And I want to show you, first I'll show you from This Week with George Stephanopoulos. They showed there was this rally, coincidentally this rally had been planned for a long time on the Mall in Washington, D.C., against NSA spying. The ACLU was involved in the rally, and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and a whole bunch of right-wing libertarian groups were involved, and it actually didn't get a lot of coverage on the Sunday shows. The only place I saw any coverage of it was on This Week with George Stephanopoulos, where they showed a indirect message from Edward Snowden through Jesselyn and Radack at that rally, and then sort of explain some of the revelations in the NSA spying regarding Europe over in this clip.
In Washington Saturday, protesters speaking out against NSA surveillance, including the man who sparked it all, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, still stuck in Russia.
He asked me to deliver this message to you. We are here to remind our government officials that they are public servants, not private investigators.
Snowden's cascade of shocking leaks have many close U.S. allies infuriated. Just this weekend, the revelation in a German newspaper that the U.S. Embassy in Berlin was a secret listening post spying on German government officials and business leaders. And it was just one of 80 similar NSA and CIA listening posts around the world. All this after reports that the U.S. was tapping world leaders' cell phones, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Merkel personally calling Obama, labeling it a grave breach of trust.
I can tell you that the President assured the Chancellor that the United States is not monitoring and will not monitor the communications of the Chancellor.
The White House didn't address whether Merkel was spied on in the past. According to a report in the British newspaper The Guardian, the NSA was listening in on 35 world leaders as early as 2006.
So yeah, the interesting part about that, do you hear that, what year that was? That was 2006. I'm not saying President Obama doesn't have any responsibility for this, because apparently it went on through his administration as well, but I was interested to see how some Republicans tried to blame this on President Obama, even though it had been going on since before he became president. And one of the congressmen from my state, California, Darrell, Issa, who I don't really respect very much because of the way he chooses partisanship over honesty so often, he tried to kind of blame this on Obama, although he did say the president, so I guess he might have been talking about President Bush, but the way he said it, it seemed pretty much like he was trying to lay this just on President Obama's doorstep as his fault. And I'll show you that clip here.
Well, remember, the NSA works for the president. So it's a question of, did the president want to hear what Chancellor Merkel was saying? Because through his national security advisor, he knew or should have known.
So yeah, that's Darrell Issa trying to blame Obama for something that's been going on from 2006, or actually in another source I actually heard 2002, but it wasn't the blaming of Obama from Republicans that I found the most amusing. What was really amusing was a couple of Republicans who actually were trying to justify this not only spying on European citizens, but what they say they actually tapped Angela, I guess in Germany it's pronounced Angela Merkel, the Germany's executive. They actually tapped her personal cell phone, and so you can see. First, I'm going to show you Republican Pete King from New York, who I think he never saw any NSA spying he didn't like, and he's trying to say somehow that the bugging of Angela Merkel's phone was useful for Germany over in this clip.
I mean, we were apparently bugging Angela Merkel's phone from the time that she was an opposition leader in Germany back in 2002. Again, I understand why this is done. I cover these issues, but I think a lot of people who are watching this right now are thinking, you know, what is it we're doing? You mentioned the Hamburg plot. I mean, we share intelligence with Germany. They're allies in this fight, not someone to be looked at so skeptically.
Well, first of all, we do share intelligence, and we've saved many lives in Germany because of the intelligence we've given them. And we're not doing this to hurt Germany, but the fact is there can be information that's being transmitted that can be useful to us and then ultimately useful to Germany. So I think that, again, this is out there. Snowden put it out there, and it bothers the hell out of me. The people in my own party, such as Rand Paul, Justin Amash, people on the left also coming together, and somehow they try to exalt Snowden. This guy is causing tremendous damage to the country. And again,
so yeah, Peter King, I think, never loses an opportunity to blame this whole thing on Snowden. Snowden is the one causing the damage, not the actual program, but the person who revealed the program is causing the damage. And of course, Peter King, he is an opposition leader in the United States right now, or one of the people. You know, he's a Republican a well-known Republican. So he's kind of in the position Angela Merkel was in 2002, and yet somehow he doesn't see any problem with that spying, and saying, it's useful to Germany. Well, how is, because people who are our friends also talk to our adversaries, but I mean, that whole thing is ridiculous. But I also want to show you, let me just load up the next 3 clips here real quick. I think the most ridiculous justification for listening in on Angela Merkel's phone calls came from Representative Mike Rogers. He's a Republican. I think he's head from the House Intelligence Committee. I think he may be chair of the House Intelligence Committee, and he actually said that, or kind of implied at least, that the NSA spying on. Hold on, let me just load this next. Wrong clip. He kind of implied that the NSA spying actually was preventing, or that if we had done NSA spying in the 1930s, it would have prevented fascism, communism, and oddly imperialism. Well, whatever. I'll criticize what he said after I show you what he said over in this clip.
So you think it's entirely appropriate for the U.S. to have monitored the phone calls of a very strong U.S. ally in Angela Merkel? You think that's appropriate?
Well, I would tell you this. The intelligence services of which was outlined in some of the so-called disclosures doesn't necessarily fit with what is actually happening, right? So it's not an exact correct interpretation of what they're seeing. They're seeing 3 or 4 pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle and trying to come to a conclusion. I'm not going to talk about the individual decisions on what is and what isn't collected, but think about this. In the 1930s, we had this debate before, and we decided we were going to kind of turn off our ability to even listen to friends who have, remember, sometimes our friends have relationships with our adversaries. And so we said, well, we're not going to do any of those kinds of things. That would not be appropriate. Well, look what happened in the 30s, the rise of fascism, the rise of communism, the rise of imperialism, and we didn't see any of it. And it resulted in the death of really tens of millions of people. And
So what is that law? Was it Godwin's law, I believe? Isn't that the one where any discussion is eventually going to have an inappropriate reference to the Nazis? So I guess NSA spying might have saved us from the Nazis and the communists and the imperialists. Was there a rise of imperialism in the 1930s? I think I may have missed that in my history lesson. I mean, maybe in the United States became more imperialistic, but it's kind of like the death of imperialism, at least by the end of World War II. European imperialism had pretty much, that was when, Great Britain ended up getting rid of, all of its colonies, and basically, we had the Middle East break up into independent countries, and India, and so, yeah, that was kind of a very weird analysis. But anyway, I wanted to show those clips about the NSA spying scandal and kind of the ridiculous Republican justifications of what happened. And I have a couple more clips I want to play that don't really fit into those 2 main categories. First, former George W. Bush Vice President Dick Cheney was over on This Week with George Stephanopoulos and gave an extensive interview because he has a new book out about his heart transplant and how it's indicative of the great advances in heart transplant technology. And he talked about a bunch of different topics, but one thing he talked about that I thought was kind of amusing was he talked about Iran and Syria, and how he thought that the negotiations with Iran that are going on right now with the Obama administration are going to be hurt by the weak outcome in Syria. And one thing in particular he said when he was talking about that I thought was totally hypocritical. But anyway, I'll show you that clip here.
I talked to my friends in that part of the region. I still know them, a lot of them, and they're very fearful that the whole Iranian exercise is going to go the same way as the Syrian exercise. That is, that there'll be bold talk from the administration, but in the final analysis, nothing effective will be done about the Iranian program.
But right now, what we're seeing today, in fact, in Syria, is the chemical weapons are being cataloged. The inspectors are in there finding out and putting a stop to the program.
Well, we'll see. I'm a skeptic, I think like a lot of other people are, and I know that our friends in the region are worried. If you look at the piece, there's a front page story in the New York Times today about how the administration has had a review of Mideast policy and is continuing to, quote, pivot to Asia and downsize the importance or the significance of that part of the world to U.S. policy.
One of the things they're
So yeah, the two significant things about that answer, I thought, first he began and kind of ended there talking about our friends in the Middle East that he still talks to and who are upset. I think he's mainly talking about Saudi Arabia because, of course, Dick Cheney's always been a big tool of Saudi Arabia. And one of the things that happened this week is that Saudi Arabia rejected a seat on the Security Council at the United Nations, and that I think is part of their problems with the United States and the way that the United States never actually bombed Syria, and that got Saudi Arabia all upset. But that thing in the middle, that was the most hypocritical, disingenuous part of that answer, when Dick Cheney said that when it came to the WMD intelligence and strategy or what was going on in Syria, that he was a skeptic. And all I could think of when I heard that is, where was that skepticism when it came to the WMDs in Iraq? Somehow, I guess Dick Cheney has become a skeptic too late in life, or at least for the United States for national security. I want to show that Dick Cheney clip. There are a lot of amusing parts of that interview with Dick Cheney. And before I get to the last two clips from HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, I also want to show one last clip from the real news shows. This one from Face the Nation actually spent several segments talking about the Kennedy assassination because the 50th anniversary of the John F. Kennedy assassination is coming up. It's from November 22nd, 1963, so November 22nd, 2013 is the 50th anniversary. And they talked extensively about the assassination, and I think over the next several weeks you'll be seeing more clips on LiberalViewer Sunday live clip roundup on that topic, because I think that will get a lot of attention in the United States as the anniversary actually comes. And Bob Schieffer on Face the Nation said November 16th he'll actually be doing a big special on it. But he had on several different guests. One was this guy, his name is Phil Shenon, and he spent like the last several years looking at all the Warren Commission files and all the information about the Kennedy assassination, and he's just written a new book. And he said several kind of interesting things. But one thing, I'm a big fan of Chief Justice Earl Warren, the head of the Warren Commission that investigated the Kennedy assassination. And there was one thing I'd never heard about, how Earl Warren got chosen to be head of the Warren Commission. This is after Kennedy was assassinated, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, President Johnson became president. And apparently he really wanted Chief Justice Earl Warren to head the commission to look into the assassination. And that's the story that this guy, Phil Shenon, told over on Face the Nation in this clip.
I feel bad for Chief Justice Warren. He did not want to run this investigation, and he initially turned it down flat. He said, I won't do it. It's a terrible conflict of interest. Then, of course, a few minutes later, the phone rings at his chambers at the Supreme Court, and he's ordered to go to the Oval Office immediately. And he encounters a man he doesn't know, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who is literally in his face, telling him he has to take this job, and that if he doesn't, the nation faces nuclear war.
He actually left the Oval Office in tears,
Apparently, Warren is in tears, and Johnson takes a certain pride in that.
So yeah, I'd never heard that story, but apparently President Lyndon Baines Johnson made Chief Justice Earl Warren cry by yelling at him in his face, and eventually in that way convinced him to lead up the Warren Commission that investigated the Kennedy assassination. So yeah, like I said, I think we'll be seeing a little more clips than that one from, did I say Phil Shenon, who wrote this new book. But anyway, as I promised at the beginning, I have a couple more clips from HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher. And these, Bill Maher is a famous atheist. He did his great movie Religulous that sort of skewered some of the beliefs of Christianity and other religions. And so last night he had some discussion about religion. I thought, of course, my audience would be interested in. One was one of his guests was one of the most famous atheists, Richard Dawkins, who wrote The God Delusion, and who actually is a fairly famous scientist. A long time ago, I read his great book, The Selfish Gene, and he came up with the whole concept of memes, and so he's a great thinker, and he's written a new book, so he's going on tour talking to a lot of people. And one of the things they talked about was this recent finding of a skull of a ancestor of human beings that showed that some of the splitting up of human beings into different groups wasn't accurate, and there weren't all the Homo habilis and Homo, I can't remember the different names of the different species, but they might really all have been one species and not accurately split up into different species. And but because they were talking about this skull, there was this interesting point that Bill Maher made about how these old skulls kind of make it impossible for the creationists to keep up their belief in the 6,000 year age of the Earth, and then there was this interesting insight from Richard Dawkins and that exchange over on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher in this clip.
How could a skull be 1.8 million years old if the Earth is only 5,000 years old? That's the question that they are asking in the Texas school system today, because our schools, a lot of them do not want to even teach evolution.
Let me tell you the analogy that I use for this. If you believe that the world is only 6,000 years old, as some of these people do, given that the true age of the Earth is 4.6 billion years, it's equivalent to believing that the width of North America is 8 yards. That's the equivalent.
Yeah, I'd never heard that little factoid used before, but and I noticed when he said yards, the first thing I thought was, he's saying 8 yards because he's thinking 8 meters, but because a yard is, basically a yard is 39 inches, or a yard is 36 inches, and a meter is 39 inches, basically. So I think that's why he said 8 yards. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. If you say the Earth is 6,000 years old, you're basically as off in your estimate as if you said North America was 6 yards across. So I thought some of my viewers would enjoy that. And then the last clip I want to show before I get to the discussion section and take some of your comments and try to get a little live discussion going. Michael Moore was on, and Michael Moore is Catholic, or at least has a Catholic heritage, and so Bill Maher asked him about the new Pope, who has done all these sort of interesting things that you don't see, come out saying that atheists might go to heaven, and that we shouldn't concentrate so much on gay issues. And so I want to show you how Michael Moore reacted to that over on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher last Friday in this final clip.
But you like this new Pope, right?
Yeah, no, I thought right away the potential for him to be the Gorbachev of the Catholic Church.
Right.
Where his job is essentially to blow up the old way and take it toward a more humanistic and righteous way, I guess. I think that I can't believe you. I mean, you've said this each week, pointing out all the things that he said. To leave gay people alone, and I'm not talking about abortion and contraception anymore, and
caring about the rules so much.
Right.
Christ, and imagine that. The
and I'm going to drive
I'm
going to drive a 25-year-old
Christian shit.
So yeah, I thought that was a kind of interesting analogy there, calling Pope Francis, or Pope Frank, as Bill Maher likes to call him, as the Gorbachev of the Catholic Church. I don't know if that's accurate. That may be a little overly optimistic, but anyway, that was the final clip I want to show you for my Liberal Viewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. A little bit shorter than usual this week. It's been kind of a hectic weekend, but I think I got some good clips for you, and I see I have over 100 people in the discussion section this week, so I want to go through and see if I can find some good on-topic comments here that I can answer, or maybe get a little live discussion going. Let's see. NO8549 is Sandy joining us tonight. Well, She was here earlier. Oh, there she is. She went to the other side. Let me see. Maybe right when I end, I'll give you a little view of Sandy. She went over to the other side, but she's here in the room with me. You may have even heard me heard Sandy snoring a little earlier. Although I think she's woken up, at least to the extent she's not snoring. This is all people. Oh, John J.C. says Russell Brand. I don't have any clips of Russell Brand. On some previous episodes of Liberal Viewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup, I showed some clips from Russell Brand's show on the FX network, which I think is actually owned by Fox, because I think what he's talking about is that over on Fox News, they kind of attacked Russell Brand. I didn't even see what Russell Brand said, but he said something, I think, about corporations getting too much profit, and then they attacked him as like a rich person who's getting all these profits. So where does he come off attacking corporations? But I don't know. I have to look into that a little more. Although I actually, having watched that Russell Brand show on FX and getting to know him a little better, some of his stuff, he's kind of out there, on like in some of the same ways that Bill Maher is on like alternative medicine and stuff. And Russell Brand is kind of out there on sort of the alternative reality stuff as well. But some of his insights I thought were, really worthwhile, and things that you don't hear people say a lot on television. So I don't buy into everything Russell Brand says, but the fact that he was attacked by Fox News this week, that definitely increases his credibility in my estimation anyway. Let me see, look through the comments here, see if I can get a couple more. I see a couple of people talking about, a couple of people asking me to take a drink of water. Marco Rubio, okay, I'm going to do a Marco. I don't have the clip about the Marco Rubio, but I do. I'm getting a little partial. Here you go. Just to keep the meme alive. I did my Marco Rubio there, and I'm hoping that meme stays alive all the way through the 2016 election, when I am fairly sure that Marco Rubio will be one of the candidates, although he has been... Oh, see, you can hear Sandy moving around there. George Kate says, Liberal Viewer, you missed the point. Obama said that if you like your plan, you could keep it. He didn't keep his word. What if those people wanted to keep their plan that are now canceled? Well, I mean... It's true, and I think there is some validity to that point, because what President Obama said was kind of simplistic, because to sell things you have to say things that are simplistic, and he's not completely honest salesman, obviously, as a politician. So yeah, it was too simplistic to say if you like your plan you can keep it, but when you attack what's happening, there are two problems with attacking the fact that people are losing these plans. First, that clip I showed from Fox News, they were talking about the cancellations without talking about the fact that all those canceled policies are being replaced by policies that have better coverage, and that for some people are going to be cheaper, especially the people with lower income who qualify for the subsidies. So if you like your plan, you can keep it, except your plan might be replaced by a better plan that's cheaper. That if you don't mention that fact, then you're not really telling people the whole truth. There is some validity to attacking President Obama for making the simplistic statement, if you like your plan, you can keep it, but not telling people that when they lose their plan, it's going to be replaced by a better plan that may be cheaper. That's not really honest, is it? So that was my point. So I don't think I was missing the point. I think maybe you were missing my point. But anyway, battle of the points. Let me see. Oh, let's see. Broken Beaker Man says, for some reason I feel like buying Colbert's Burke, but first I'll wiki Nazi doctors. Well, yeah, I actually have behind me here, I guess I've been using this Colbert book for a while. Maybe I'll change that eventually. I just did that because I feel my first viral video ever was used. It was based on a Colbert clip. It was called Fox News Edits a Democrat to make him look worse. And that was like my first viral video ever. So that's my sort of like tribute to the Colbert clip that helped start my channel. But the Nazi Doctors, that's behind me here, this book here, right? That's actually a really good book about how the medical profession was corrupted in Germany to help justify Nazi genocide. And yeah, that's a great book. So don't just wiki it, buy it. That's what I would say. But let me keep scrolling up here, see if I can find a couple more. There's a lot of people asking me to take a drink of water. Sandy, come here. Let's see. Just for fun, Tim. Alan never pays attention to the chat. Well, you know, while I'm doing the show, I have like 3 different things to do at the same time, so I generally don't look at the chat very much while I'm playing the clips, but here I am at the end of the show. I'm like scrolling through. I even saw your Alan never pays attention to the chat comment, so I think I just refuted that one. Let's see. Jaluk says, Kasich was a scumbag liar back when he was one of Newt Gingrich's boy in the house, and he's only gotten sleazier since he decided to be a teabagger governor and cockroach. Yes, lots of bad things are happening in Ohio, and Kasich has definitely moved more to the right, and yeah, I can't really disagree with a lot of the sentiments in that comment. Let me see. I'm going to look for... Oh, Phoenix Writer says, David Gregory has got to be kidding. Yes, we spy. Everyone spies on everybody, as Senator Rubio noted. Yeah, a lot of people noted how everyone spies on everyone. I guess we have a deal with some Commonwealth countries that we don't spy on. Great Britain, New Zealand, Canada, and I'm forgetting some 4th country. But... beyond that, we pretty much do spy on everybody, and they all spy on us. And part of it, I think, is that they're just upset. The European countries are just upset that we're like better at spying than they are. But then, on the other hand, bugging the phone of Angela Merkel in Germany, I think that, I mean, come on, that is just like that's a. I mean, I've been doing these NSA spying clips for a while, going back several months from when Edward Snowden first made his leaks and went over to Hong Kong and then Russia. And one of the things I've heard from a lot of people over as I've been showing these clips is that somehow everybody's doing it, and it's not that big a deal. And I mean, to some extent, the spying is just something that countries do, but it just is so extreme. And anyway, I appreciate that comment, though. And I see people getting excited for the Dawkins comment. I don't know. I almost played that at the beginning. I hope people weren't upset that I made them wait to the end for the Richard Dawkins clip there, but I hope you enjoyed that. And I'm coming up to about the 1 hour mark. See more people asking for the Marco Rubio. Okay, I'll do one more Marco Rubio for, I don't know why that's gotten so popular all of a sudden, but and I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I should be making a oh, here's Sandy. Here, let me, for those who asked to see Sandy, here's, Sandy came just to, here, Sandy. Yes, what a cute puppy. So yeah, there's Sandy, for those who asked to see Sandy, and I should be making an edited, produced video, hopefully this week, about the awful Fox News reporting on the settlement with J.P. Morgan. I think it's going to be called Fox News Likes Bank Fraud, so keep an eye out for that. And I appreciate that I had so many people joining me for LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup, which is 6:30 p.m. Pacific every Sunday. So keep looking for that and joining me and asking your questions. And I hope my American viewers have a good end to their weekend, and my European viewers or the people in the later time zones have a good beginning of their week on Monday, and hope to see you all around on the internet.